Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Well, it looks like I just made it out to the greenhouse in time because it's starting to rain. Well, on the bright side, it means I don't have to water my trees out on the bench. Today is Ficus Friday, so I pulled my Vietnam Style Ficus microcarpa out of the plant room and into the greenhouse here. I haven't worked on this tree for the entire winter, so I'm sure there's lots to do. Here is a look at my Ficus microcarpa. Can you hear the rain on the greenhouse? It's fantastic. I just love being out here in the greenhouse during the rain. So you can see the tree is kind of overgrown. The moss that's on the base is kind of not so good looking. It's kind of dried out. The moss at the base on the ground down here has gotten really thick and, well, quite ugly looking. So yeah, it definitely needs a cleanup, a spa day here in the bonsai zone. The rain is definitely coming down harder now. Uh-oh, zombie apocalypse. I'm taking a look at the ficus, wondering where to start. I think I'll start with the weeding and taking the moss down. So I'll scissor prune the moss back, making it really short. And then I think it'll be time to prune the tree. I've got my little curved scissors and my tweezers, and I should be able to clean up the moss with that. I'll get my weed pulled out of here. There it goes, that came out, roots and all. I think that was really the only weed in the planting. The rest is all kind of moss. It's very dry. Well, let me scissor prune it back. So I'll just come in and cut away at the moss, getting it down to a thin layer. Just kind of crumbling away. I'm wondering if I'm better just to strip the moss off and grow a new layer. That would give me a chance to check out what the roots are doing on the tree. I better do that. I better have a look and see what's going on. Stripping away all the moss, and then I'll regrow a new layer. In the greenhouse here in the summer with the misting system going, moss grows everywhere, so it's no problem growing a new layer of moss. And there'll be moss spores everywhere after pulling this dry moss away. I was hoping, I did a lot of root carving last time I worked on this tree, and I let the moss grow up, and I was hoping that I would get a lot of new roots kind of growing in the root system, and I did get some here, which are quite nice. Not a whole lot, but I did get some, which is always a plus. And I think the carving is starting to look more natural too, which is exciting. Once I get this moss cleared away, I'll show you a close-up of the root system, what's happening with it. I've got a lot of the moss cleared away from the base of the tree here. Might have to come in with a toothbrush and get the rest. Let me peel this moss off too. I think I'll just start over with that also. It's just, I could try scissor pruning it, but I don't think, it's all too fluffy and coming off too easily. It's better just to grow a new layer. If I had managed this moss throughout the winter, it would have been fine, but again, my plant room was too crowded and I just couldn't get to all the trees properly, so they got a bit neglected over the winter, but you know, most of the winter they were dormant. They weren't growing much, and so I didn't really need to do much work on them other than kind of keeping the moss trimmed and the insects down, but I didn't do a very good job at either of those. Now this tree doesn't have many insects on it, if it has any. I haven't noticed any scale or anything like that, so that's always good. Get the moss out around the back here too. The moss grew on the pot here quite nicely. I'll leave that on. That'll probably green up again. Kind of make it look even more ancient. Okay, I think that's good for the moss removal. Quite a pile of moss I removed from the planting. So I think next I'm going to do the pruning on the tree. It's quite overgrown in some places. I've been keeping this tree compact, tightly pruned, not giving it a lot of vigor, trying to keep it quite miniature. So it definitely needs a prune. It's a bit overgrown. Now the question I have to ask myself, to prune this up, should I defoliate the tree, then prune it up, or should I try and prune it with the leaves on the tree? It's not so dense that I can't see the branches, so I could leave the leaves on the tree for sure. I can see to get in here, no problem. The question is, do I want to take vigor out of the tree by defoliating it and then having it grow in new, smaller leaves? I think in this case, because the existing leaves are quite small to begin with, I don't really need to defoliate the tree. I think I'm going to keep the leaves on the tree. I can clearly see what I'm doing with the pruning. So I will just prune the tree. If the tree was covered in scale or insects, I might be tempted to defoliate it, but there's the odd bit of scale on it, but not very much. Okay, well, I'll try pruning it with the leaves on. If I think it's becoming a problem, then I can always defoliate it and continue the pruning. So here I go. My goal for this ficus is to make it look larger than it actually is. So when you see a photograph of the tree, you think, wow, that must be a big ficus bonsai. And then when you see it in real life, it's this tiny little miniature tree. That's my goal, is to get all the features of a full-size ficus bonsai in this small size. So hopefully I can do that. So I'm going to begin the pruning. I've got a stub here I can remove from the last time I pruned it. I've got branches growing out the front here. I think I want to prune it to here, just in front of a downward facing leaf here. And then I've got another leaf here. This is an old leaf. I'm going to remove it. Just keeping my newer leaves on the end of the branch. Above it here, I have another branch. There's an old leaf here I'm going to remove. I'm going to prune it here, cutting the end off that branch. And then I've got a vertical shoot coming up here. I don't want this vertical shoot, so I'm taking that right out, like that. There's a little branch forming in here, which is nice. I'm going to keep that. There's a couple of little branches coming off of this branch. I think I'll just keep the one. I'll remove the one that's closest to the base of the branch. Taking that little one out. So this branch is now pruned up. There's a big branch up here that's really bothering me. It's sticking way out of the profile. Oh, here's another little spider I've got to get out of here. There. So I want to prune this back. I can prune it back to here and here. I've got two leaves. One coming to the front, one coming to the back. So I'll prune just above that, keeping both leaves. Like that. So that gets that branch pruned a little more compact. There's another long branch out the back here. I'll prune it to here for now. I may shorten it more in the future once I step back and have a look at it. But for now, I'll prune it to there. I may come back to it. I've got a low branch down here that's kind of, I've got this low branch and then one above it. I don't want this low branch starting to grow up into the branch above it. So I'm going to prune it here to a downward facing leaf. And again, I may come back to this later on and do more pruning. I'm going to prune this one back to here. I'll take this leaf off on the inside. It's cluttering up the branch a bit. Take a stub off there. And there is one growing straight up on this branch. I'll take that right off. And then I've got a lot of new branches in this area, and they're all coming from kind of the one spot here. I've got 1, 2, 3, and then the thicker one makes 4 branches. I don't want 4 branches growing from one spot, otherwise I'll get a thickening in that area and it'll look terrible in the future. So I have to decide what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of. Branches, the lower branches, you want them kind of cascading. As you go up the tree, they become horizontal, and then in the apex, the branches go up to vertical. So these bottom branches, I want them to cascade if possible. So I do have some kind of cascading branches here. They're more horizontal than the thicker, woodier ones above. I'm going to take this branch back to here. Oh, let me just trim that. There. So I may want to replace this woody part with these lower branches. It would give more room between this branch and the one above it. I think I'd better do that. So I'm going to prune off my, my fairly established woody branches here and replace them with these fine new ones below. So here I go. Like that. So you can see major work on that branch. I'm also going to take the branch off out the back here because I just want to keep 2 growing tips on this branch, these 2 here. So quite a bit of work on that branch. The branch doesn't look as nice now, but I'm pruning it for the future. This will grow out and I'll have more room between this branch and the one above. And I'll try and direct this branch more out the back and this one more forward so they're not directly above each other, so they're kind of staggered. Okay, so the branch above, I've got a branch coming forward here. I'm going to trim it back to here, shortening that branch. And the branch beside it, you can see I have a horizontal branch here and then one growing upwards. So I'll take the upward part off, keeping my more horizontal branch there. Making it more compact, and the branches are going a better direction now. I think I'll probably shorten this branch in the future. There looks like some growth coming off of it that will develop. I wonder if I should prune it back now. I think I will. It's just too long. If I prune that tip off, I should get some back budding on that branch. If not, I've got some backup buds here that, I won't lose the branch, that's for sure. Now, deep in here, in kind of the base of the junction of all these trunks, I've got some new shoots forming, and I don't want those growing in here, so I'm going to prune them out. I've already got my major trunk divisions. I don't need more branches in there cluttering it up. Now, out the front here, I had this trunk line kind of cleaned up, and I've got new growth coming out the front. I think I've got to get rid of it. It's just sticking straight out to the viewer, and you can't see the trunk. So off comes a little shoot there, off comes this shoot, Just prune back a little more. And then I've got some branches growing up from underneath here. I don't want the one coming up front, so I'll take that one off for sure. And then I've got one coming off to the side here, which kind of crosses all these aerial roots in the trunk, and I've got better branches up higher. I don't think I want this low one, so it's coming off also. Like that. So now I can see the trunks a little more clearly, and I can get rid of some more of this moss that's growing up the trunk here. Next, I've got some branches here, which is kind of nice. It's sort of, I guess this is the apex of this trunk line coming up here. I'm wondering, do I keep this counterbalancing one over this side? It would separate it into two kind of apexes here. I think I pruned it off last time because it was blocking the trunk behind, so maybe I don't want that. Maybe I don't want this one. I think I don't. I think I want this to grow into my trunk line, so this one's coming off also. Like that, a little one here. So now you can see this trunk line more clearly. This is going to be the apex, and you can see the trunk line behind it also. Now again on this one, I've got some branches down low. My major branches divide up higher, so I don't need these little ones coming off here, these new suckers. Keep that trunk a little cleaner. Like that. I've got another one coming off here, a new branch. I'm going to take that one off. Keeping my trunk lines a little cleaner looking so you can see a trunk. You want to see a trunk and then a canopy. I've got some stubs I can clean up in this branch. And then I can prune this branch back to here. Like that. Making it more compact. I've got a branch here. I'm not sure if that's a new one. I think it is. It's growing on the inside of the curve here. I definitely don't want it, so it's coming right out. Like that. I think it's a new branch. I've got one coming straight out the front here. Again, I don't think I need it. I have branches in the canopy up here. I'm going to remove that so you can see the trunks. I've got a new shoot here that kind of grows across the center of the tree. I don't want that. That's coming out. There's a couple of new the new suckers growing behind this trunk. I've got to prune all those out too. Cluttering up the middle of the tree. I still see a few here. There. So the middle of the tree is empty now. There's no little branches growing there. So it's looking much cleaner now, the tree. You can see the design of it. You can see the trunk lines, which is important. That it's not just like a green dome of green dome of leaves and then just barely see the roots and the trunks. You don't want that. You want to see everything fairly clearly. Okay. Got a little shoot here I can clean out. A micro shoot. Now, off of this trunk line here, I have a division here, which is alright. I'll just prune it back a bit. And I've got a branch in behind here, which I don't want. It's a new growth, so that comes off there. Cleans up this trunk line, so this will develop. I don't want my one here, little one there. Again, I want to keep pads of foliage, not one big clump. There's a branch kind of growing across the design here. I'm going to take this side of it out. Like that, keeping this little one here. Take a leaf out on the inside here. And this leaf off the bottom here, cleaning that up a bit. So you can see this trunk line comes out this direction. This one comes up here. This one comes out here. You can see all the trunks, where the apex is on each trunk, and I think that looks good. Now, this front trunk line is shorter than the rear ones. It's something I'll have to watch. I'll try and grow this maybe a little taller, maybe keep the back one shorter. Or, right now you can see all the trunk lines, and maybe it's better that the front one's shorter. It's a little unconventional, but it seems to work. I'm going to start pruning back some of these branches, making them more compact. There's a tall one here growing up. And I've got to decide, do I want it? I'll prune it back short. And then when I step back and look at the design, I'll check for things that look out of place. Simply shortened. There's a new branch, a tall one growing up here. That doesn't need to be there. It's coming right out. Taking back a bit of deadwood here, just sort of crumbling away back to the living tissue, like that. I need to do some sorting to this back trunk line. I've got kind of this upright branch growing here. I've got one at the back, another one off to the left. There's quite a bit going on there. Just clean up some of the dead stubs. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I think this trunk line here, it kind of goes off to the left-hand side, and then there's a part that comes forward which is starting to cross over the center of the tree. I think I'd be better to prune it off to these ones going to the left-hand side, so I'll take it off here. Quite a big cut. It also reduces the height of this back trunk line here. This one I can take back. This one could be taken back at least to here. Oh, get in there. Maybe shorter. Yeah, definitely shorter. I have one coming out the back. I'll take that whole tip off the top and take this one off here. So the trunk line's growing out towards the back. This is a new shoot here. I don't like it there. I'm going to remove it. Come on. There it goes. Yeah, it was cluttering up the design there. I've got a new shoot kind of below this branch. I don't like it. I'm going to take it off. It's cluttering it up too much. Like that. growing out the front here. I'll just clean those up. Take the tip off this branch. Now you can see out the back I've got some pretty long branches here. That needs to be taken back. And it may be time to do a bit of hard pruning on these branches. I'll start up top. I don't want to prune these bottom ones back if the top ones are shading them out. So I've got to prune this one back first. A few Hail Mary cuts in this. It's been a while since I've done a Hail Mary cut. Kind of pruning these branches back shorter, hoping something, new leaves sprout or new branches sprout in that area. I'm sure they will. Take some older leaves out here. Prune this one off shorter. There's a few new thin branches coming out the back here. I'll take these off. I already have a branch in this area. I don't want to develop new ones. Just cleaning up some stumps there. There's a branch coming forward here. I'll prune it back to here. It's looking much better from the front now. This branch is growing a strange direction. I'll prune it back. I think this one's it's growing back in towards the tree. I'm going to take it out. Don't like it. Same here. I've got, this branch is coming off to my left, and I got a vertical shoot here. Take that out too. Like that. And I've got to shorten this one. It's too tall. Too long, too straight. This one, I can shorten it too. That's looking better. This one, can't really shorten it more. It's a little long, but I guess it'll do. Take an old leaf out here. Here I've got a couple of branches running parallel with each other, ladder branches. I'm going to keep my upper one and get rid of the bottom one because it's interfering with the branch below it. So I'll keep my higher branch so I get a bit more space between branches there. I've got an old leaf here I've got to remove. It's kind of getting in the way there. This one could be pruned back. I've got a stub here I can take off. I've got a new shoot growing out the back here. I don't think I want it. It may not hurt to keep one of them. I'll keep the one. I'll just get rid of the double branches in that area. There's a few stubs I need to clean. Oh, there's another spider. Come here, spider. Get that spider out of there. Because I will be spraying soap. Come on, out of there. Oh. Okay. Come on. There, I got the spider out of there. Okay. Spider is gone. Some old leaf I can remove there. Old leaf I can remove here. I'm going to shorten this branch. It's too long. To there. Now, off this branch coming out the back, I've kind of got a double branch here. There's one part of it goes horizontal and the other part's more upwards. Which one do I want? If I got rid of this one, I'd certainly make the back a little more compact. This one's getting too long. So I'll take that one off. Here I go. That's gone. Doesn't affect the tree at all, the looks of it. Yeah, it's looking good now. I'm liking it. There's an old leaf here I can remove. Stub here. There's a new shoot growing up here I'll get rid of. Don't want too many branches in that area. Stub I can prune back here. Another branch I can remove here. Cluttering that area up. I think I'll shorten this one. Take the tip off at least. I'm going to shorten it back to here. Yeah. Well, it is definitely making progress. I could shorten this one back. I've got a branch out here, so I'll take the tip off there. That looks better. Old, I'll leave that on. I'll take it off. There's an old leaf there. I'm not defoliating the tree, but I'm getting, I've taken a lot of foliage off, that's for sure. It's pretty close to a defoliation, but not a total. I call it a partial defoliation. Take this off. Just taking some of these leaves off that are kind of above other branches and are blocking the light. It's important to keep rotating the tree as you're pruning, see it from all angles. Get above the tree. Okay, I think I'm getting pretty close with the pruning. Stub I can take off there. Yeah. Well, standing back, I really like it. I think it fans out nicely. Yeah, I'm really liking it. I think once this, this trunk line develops a little more, it'll look quite nice. I'm going to take the toothbrush and remove some more of this moss off the roots. Just clean those roots up a bit. I may do some more carving today on them. Last time I carved them with a surgical scalpel. A very precision operation. It looks like it worked really well. Dividing the thick, bulbous ginseng type roots into smaller slices, making it look more miniature, and I think the effect is pretty good. And I'm hoping that someday it looks perfectly natural and it looks like no one ever did any root carving. It just looks like looks like a miniature banyan tree, is what I hope. Now, I haven't done a lot of carving out the back yet. Well, I've done some here, that's for sure. So you carve out these grooves and then the live veins kind of bulge and get round, and then they look like multi-roots. That's the idea behind the root carving. Okay, so that's cleaned up. If I step back and look at the view of the tree, I get the impression it's a large ficus. The leaves give it away a bit. They're a little large, but here's the size of my hand. It's a very small tree, and yet I think it looks big. I think if you saw a photograph of this, you wouldn't really know how big it is. You might mistake it for, a larger bonsai. That's my goal, is trying to really miniaturize this planting. Here is a look at everything I took off the tree today, so quite a bit. A lot of growth, and a lot of that was from the winter. So here's a view of the tree now from above. You can see all the trunks, the roots. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. It's, you know, for a tree that started out as a grocery store ginseng ficus, it's certainly come a long way over the years. It is time to give the ficus a water. So here I go. I need to do one final thing with this tree. When I was pruning it, I scraped off any scale insects I saw, and there wasn't very many. There was maybe 3 that I saw on the whole tree. But I better give it a spray with soap and water as a preventative measure in case there's crawling scale insects on it. It'll kill them, keep the tree healthy, and it should start growing fairly soon. So here I go with my spray of soap and water, 40 parts water, 1 part liquid dish soap. Here I go. I'll start from above. Get below the leaves. All directions. Give it a good thorough spray. The surface of the soil, the pot, the tray underneath. Everything a coating of soap and water to kill any insects on the tree. So that should do. I'll let that sit for a few minutes and then rinse it thoroughly. Alright, here I go with the rinse cycle. Okay, I think that'll do. I hate to say it, but my work on my Vietnam Style Ficus is done for today. I really like working on this tree. I think it's a charming little tree. Let's spin it around now so you can see it from all angles. Alright, here I go. There's the front of the tree. Coming around to the right hand side. Going around to the back of the tree. Over to the left hand side. And back to the front. I was thinking about the carving of these the roots. I think I'm going to wait because some of where I've divided the roots, the living section hasn't rounded yet, and they will as it ages. The live vein will form a round shape instead of being flat. So instead of just looking like sections were carved out of the roots, it'll look like kind of aerial roots that have fused. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to let these wounds heal over more, at least another year, I think. And then I'll reevaluate, you know, if I have to do any more carving, any more detail work to the root system. I hadn't put the winter jasmine away, and I realized, wow, does that ever make a nice little accent plant for my Ficus microcarpa here? Well, it's pretty cool. So maybe this will be a good accent plant. I'll just give you a little bit of history about this ginseng ficus. It started off as a grocery store ginseng ficus. It had all those exposed roots that looked like legs and a bum maybe. My brother bought it and he let it get too cold. On top of the ginseng ficus there was grafted a smaller, maybe a tiger bark ficus or a melon seed ficus foliage. All that foliage died, all those branches died. So it was just basically a stump of roots. And then from those roots grew new branches that are true to the genetics of the root system, not the grafted stalk on top. So this is all genetically one tree now. He, after it kind of froze and killed off all those branches, he gave it to me. And I took a saw to the roots and I just cut off about 70% of the root system with a flat saw cut to the roots. Planted the top of it, which had I think it had a few branches growing in then. And it recovered. It created a new root system. It began growing. And then I carved the roots. It had 3 or 4 big bulbous roots. So I carved grooves in them to kind of separate those big bulbous roots into smaller individual roots. That's how it kind of gives you this look. It grew some aerial roots then, and it started developing a nice branch structure, and I developed kind of multi-trunks kept them pruned up, and yeah, this is it today. And it's got a long way to go still, lots of more branch development, but it's one of my favorite trees, that's for sure. So that's a history of my Vietnam Style Ficus, and it's in a 3D printed pot. So it's kind of a cool pot because the pot is sort of a miniature version of a full-size concrete bonsai pot. So that is all for today for Ficus Friday. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.